The Nokia Lumia Icon. This is actually the first Nokia Lumia with a name. Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Carlos with Wirefly, and what I got for you guys today is the review of the Nokia Lumia Icon. But before we start this review, I just wanted to thank our friends over at Nokia for sending this phone out for review. We received no compensation for this video. This phone is a Verizon exclusive, so it's going to come with good phone service. So no matter if you're making phone calls, messaging, or anything like that, this phone should do anything and everything without a hassle. Of course, it depends on the area, how good the coverage is in your area, but like I said, it's Verizon, it should do the job. This phone is now on a standard size, coming in at 5.39 by 2.8 by 0.39 inches, weighing in at 5.89 ounces. The button layout is really simple on the phone. All the physical buttons are on the right hand side of it. The volume rocker is towards the top of the phone, in the middle is the power on and off button, and towards the bottom of the phone is the designated camera button. Even though I gotta say, I always tended to press the volume rocker when I wanted to turn on the phone, but I guess it's not a big issue. I guess it was more on my part, but like I said, I always mistaken the buttons one for another. The bottom of the phone just has the charging port. The top has a 3.5mm headphone jack and the nano SIM card slot, which you can open with your fingertips supposedly, but if you're like me, you don't have any fingernails, it's going to be hard for you to get it open. And finally, the left hand side of the phone was left with no buttons, no slots, no anything. It's just a plain side. The front of the phone has a pretty nice sized display. The display on this phone is 5 inches. It's a full HD 1080p AMOLED display. The colors pop and the blacks are nice and dark. The display was nice and it was even visible outside. What I like about the display is that it's very sensitive to the touch. You can multi-touch with no problem at all. It has Gorilla Glass 3, so it should be pretty scratch resistant. It has a very nice curve in the front of the phone, so your finger rolls onto the screen, and the back also has that nice curve to it. So holding the phone in your hand should be pretty comfortable no matter what size of hands you have. And yes, it has a metal chassis all the way around. The processors on this phone are a Snapdragon 800 chipset with a quad-core 2.2 GHz CPU, backed up by 2 GB of RAM, which should be more than enough. Everything is pretty snappy. You can go in between apps with no issues, besides having the ability to multitask between apps and having the interactive home display. This phone comes with 32 GB of pre-installed memory, which should be enough for the normal user. Unfortunately, it's not upgradable since there is no memory card slot. The bright side is that you get 2 GB of free SkyDrive space, so if you're running a little bit low on your space, you can push some data up to the cloud and you can free up some space on your phone. Software and applications on this phone are good, but very limited. It's obvious that the OS on the phone is Windows, and while it might not be everyone's favorite, it's pretty solid OS. The App Store may be small, but it has some very powerful Windows-based apps. You have the usual personal management apps like clock, alarm clock, reminders, just to name a few. But you also have access to business type apps like Word, Excel, OneNote, PowerPoint, and PDF files. These are very important for people who are trying to take their business mobile. This is a Windows phone, so you can go in and play some Xbox games and of course other games. Handles games with no issues whatsoever. It's a pretty smooth and pleasant experience. I would like to mention the phone gets a bit warm after a few minutes of use. I don't think that's normal for a phone to get warm, but I mean it's nothing that's gonna burn your hand or anything like that. I just noticed it got a little warm towards the bottom of the phone. Also, the speaker on the phone is decent loud, not super loud or something out of the norm. The web browser and keyboard are pretty good. It's easy to type on and the keyboard is pretty accurate. Didn't really catch myself making a lot of mistakes. The keys are nice and spaced, and it gives you plenty of space to put your fingers on the screen. The web browser is nothing special, but it does the job and it does it well. You can scroll through websites with no problem. It just flows through the websites. If we go onto the back, that's where the main feature of this phone is, that 20 megapixel camera. I did a special video showing off the camera so you guys can view some pictures and video samples. You guys can check that video in the channel, or I will put that video in the video description. The camera has image stabilization, autofocus, and dual LED flash. Even though it's a 20 megapixel camera, it cannot record in 4K. This phone can record in 1080p at 30 frames per second. It also has 4 microphones that are going to do a great job in noise canceling, prevent distortion, and try to give you the best audio for your video. On the front of the camera, you get a 1.2 megapixel camera that can record 720p video. It's not the greatest front-facing camera, but it does a decent job. This phone comes in 2 flavors, which are black and white. Nothing that crazy like we are used to, you know, those yellow, blue, red, pink, and green phones from Nokia. But then again, it's Verizon, and they tend to have a more subtle look in their phones. In order to power this bad boy, you need a decent sized battery. Well, this phone has a 2400 milliamp battery. With some light to moderate use to the phone, it got me through a full day with a single charge. I expected it to last it a little longer, but if it gets me through a day with a single charge, that is no problem for me. One thing I did notice is that the phone drained the battery even if the display was off. I turned the display on and some of the battery juice was missing, so it may drain your battery even if it's off. Overall, I think the Windows Phone user will love this phone. Probably one of the best phones out there for Windows. I could say this phone is targeted for people who are going to use a phone for business. Since you cannot add memory, the phone cannot carry your music library, your pictures, your videos. It limits you to what files you want to carry. So I see this phone being more for people who are taking business mobile and just a user who wants to keep using Windows on their phone. I hope you guys really enjoyed this review, and if you want to review this phone or any other phone, you can go to wirefly.com. I was Carlos with Wirefly, and I will see you guys in the next video.